Goedemiddag allemaal in België dan. A very good morning for the people joining us today from anywhere in the Americas. I think we even have a number of people dialing in from Asia. Zoals aangegeven in de uitnodiging zullen we het event vandaag in het Engels voeren, voornamelijk omdat we een aantal fit-collega's uit de regio betrekken die niet Nederlandstalig zijn. Dat was ook reeds vermeld in de aankondiging. I trust you're all okay with that, being in the export business after all. It's now 3 p.m. Your side, just a tiny bit earlier where I am. We have a healthy turnout already, so we're expecting, I think, about 40 to 50 people today dialing in. The majority, or at least a good chunk of them, have landed, have arrived, so thank you for your timely arrival. In return, and respecting your time and agenda, I propose to start punctually, but in any case, I'll have to run you through some housekeeping rules, and I'll try to set the scene, and that will give our latecomers a bit more time to settle and to join us. So once again, welcome. At this time, I also want to acknowledge our partners organizing this with us, and that is Cleantech Flanders and the good people at Flux 50. So big thank you to them for getting involved and for reaching out to their members. Before I forget, for those who do not know me, my name is Ralph Moreau. I'm now posted in San Francisco since 1 month. So some of you may still know me as being Singapore-based, but I'm here now at the west coast of the US. Hence, it being a bit earlier than 3 p.m. for you. It's my 6 a.m. now. I'm still with Flanders Investment Trade, and I'm still in my role as a science and tech guy, focusing on climate and clean tech. But I will now be covering the entire Americas. However, today I'm just here moderating, and we'll be giving the floor to our expert speakers, my colleagues in these 4 key markets that we will be covering today. And of course, there will be our very exciting company testimonial. So do bear with me while I'll talk you through the setup of today's event. As mentioned, rather pleased with the turnout. It tells us that there is indeed a healthy appetite for the topic of today, and that is exploring the opportunities in the field of clean tech in those Latin American markets. It may not be a market that comes naturally to us in Flanders, but it's a very important market, a growth market nonetheless, with some very specific assets, materials, conditions, but my colleagues will touch upon that, no doubt, in the next hour to come. Our approach today is indeed to introduce you, our export-driven Flemish companies, to 4 key markets, to give you some perspective of what's in the pipeline, what different governments are doing, what are the funding schemes, what is happening, and how are these governments and countries and economies moving forwards. As you know, today's session is just a first step in our approach to inform and to motivate you. So to motivate you to then join us into the second step of this program is where our colleagues will then start or attempt to set up B2B meetings, actual meetings with you, with local partners in those key markets. The final objective, of course, is step 3, where you do concrete business and sign contracts. But first things first. My colleague Sabine will, in any case, at the end of the presentations, also detail in a bit more, explain in a bit more detail how we're going to proceed, and if today we indeed succeed in tickling your interest and you decide to move forward with us, how we will go about. Please note that we are recording today's sessions. We will make that recording available to you, and we'll also share, of course, the slides with you. We are a large group of people today, so we have decided to put everybody on mute. We also appreciate if you would switch off your cameras. That will save us some bandwidth, and that will not clutter the screen. I think we are good to go. Everybody is very compliant, so thank you for that. So how to go about after I eventually stop talking, very soon now. We will ask our 4 speakers to each introduce themselves, and after that, I'm very happy that we have a company testimonial by a company, one of our local champions. I always say, of zeg altijd, een oer-Vlaams uit de kluitergewassen familiebedrijf met globale ambities that has gone to the Latin American markets. They've explored different markets and different partnerships, so a lot of expertise to share, and they're always happy to share with other companies like they do today. And I'm of course talking about Vinke, and they are today represented by no less than Peter Vinke himself. But first, the introductions, then the hands-on testimonials, and then we'll come to your questions. Now, your questions, we will not open the floor during the presentations. Please jot them down in the chat, and I will come back to those questions at the end of the presentations. I will do a more interactive Q&A like then. Okay, enough for me. Time to get to the main dish and to give the floor to our 5 expert speakers. And today, the first one to join us to share his experience and introduce us to his market is Dirk Schantlare in Brazil. Now, Dirk, I will give you the floor. Take it away.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Everybody can see me?
Yes, all good.
Okay, perfect. So also heartily welcome from Sao Paulo, Brazil. My name is Dirk Schantlare. I'm here since 2 years and a half. So I'm going to fly you through the different opportunities we have in Brazil, which are quite numerous. Brazil has had quite a bad press lately, but notwithstanding this, it's a powerhouse. It's the 2nd largest economy in the Americas and the 7th largest worldwide. So this implies that once we get out of this crisis, there will be a new enormous request for additional power, additional energy. So this being said, we have now a 10-year energy expansion plan in place, covering 19 until 29, where about 450 billion reais is foreseen to be invested. To go from a real to euro, you just divide by 6.5. So most of this new energy will come from wind, sun, and biomass, which implies that today they represent about 20% of the energy matrix, and at the end of 2040, this will become 44%. So this gives already an idea of where our priorities are. And also Brazil is moving from a regulated market to a free energy market, which is more a B2B model. Already a lot of the important foreign companies are present here in Brazil. Alstom, General Electric, Siemens Gamesa, etc. And if we are talking about wind energy, for example, these 5 players stands for 90% of the market share. What's the composition of the energy matrix? So number 1 has been traditionally hydraulic. So on the left you see today's situation, on the right where we will end up 10 years from now. So you will see that the percentage of hydro will slowly get down, so there won't be that much investment. But on the contrary, there will be much more investment in solar, wind, and biomass. The solar will go from 2 to 8%, wind from 9 to 16, and biomass will remain at a solid 10%. Wind energy is quite important in Brazil. We have an installed capacity of 15 gigawatt, 620 wind parks, so supplying over 25 million households, more or less 75 million people. You can see where they're located. It's basically in the northeast. Northeast, it's not only the best place on earth for kite surfing, it's also the best place to put your wind parks. It's basically here in northeast and in the southern part. In this graph, you can see that a lot of investment was done between 2014 and 2018, which was basically due to the fact that financing became available and the prices of the panels, Chinese panels in this case, dropped significantly. But the main point here is wind energy, accounting now for 9%, will move to 60% or more by 2029. Solar energy is the next one on our list. So today we have 7.6% gigawatt installed. If you talk about the households, small communities, small medium enterprises, a lot of the micro and mini energy generations come from solar energy. And as I said already, 2% of the energy production in Brazil today comes from solar energy, but this will grow up to 8% in 2029. To the right, you see a slide where you see the growth of the solar energy over the years. You will see again that really everything started in 2017 because of the finance and the prices. The difference between the yellow and the blue color is quite easy. Yellow is the own consumption by the generator, and the blue one is the energy which is being reverted into the grid. Biomass is very important also. We have 15 gigawatt installed, which accounts for about 10% of the country's total capacity. So it's the fourth largest source after hydro, wind, and natural gas. Now it's interesting to see where biomass is located. It's basically in the center-west and southern states of Brazil, where all the agriculture takes place. Because the harvest takes place during the dry season, when the hydropower generation is at its lowest, so it complements each other. To the right, you see not only the growth, but you see also the composition of the inputs being used to generate electricity. And it won't be a surprise that you will see here that most of it, I would say 80% of the inputs is agricultural related or plantation crops. I'm thinking about sugar canes, soya, etc. So this is in a nutshell where we stand about energy. Let's move to solid waste. Solid waste, we had the last 10 years quite some increase in the generation of solid waste in Brazil. About 20% growth of the generation of waste. So we now stands at about 80 million tons a year, which is quite substantial. Out of this, the amount of collected waste grew some 22%, basically also because the collection coverage increased from 88 to 92%. So what's the problem? Well, the problem is, I think, common to most of our countries here. Most of the collected waste goes either to landfills, in this case 43 million tons a year, or worse, they go to dumps. In Brazil, this is now 29 million tons per year who are being dumped. The first national policy came out in 2010 with two focus points, really, waste reduction and the ending of the dumps, and really to impose like a kind of shared responsibility and to make people aware about the possibilities of reverse logistics. So some results were obtained by this first national law. I would say the good results were definitely in the packaging of the agriculture defensives. Nowadays, 94% of them are sent for recycling, which is not that bad. Also, packaging in general has had good results. There are 20 associations responsible to coordinate this. They represent paper, plastic, and aluminium sector, and they're supported by 4,000 companies. So as a first tangible result, the volume of packaging disposed in landfills fell by 21%, which is quite substantial. Okay, tires is also a good example. About 1 billion tires have been returned since the start of this program. But there's still a lot of work to do, especially in three fields. Medicine. Brazil is the 7th biggest consumer of medicines in the world. Very little has been done to deal with this. Same goes from electric waste, where Brazil is the 5th largest generator worldwide, and little or nothing has been done concerning reverse logistics here. And as far as batteries are concerned, It was only in 2019 as a first plan has been set up to deal with this problem. Now, okay, let's be positive. Last year, a new legal framework came up, which could be a game changer. Why? Because now for the first time, some real targets and timing was imposed. So now the municipalities, they have 10 years to devise and to implement an integrated plan for the management of their solid waste. So what's the idea? The idea is to eliminate all dumps, 40% of the total waste, by 2024. I personally deem it a bit an ambitious plan, but okay, this is what's written, and this is still the target. Now, what can we do, or what are opportunities for us? Well, for the first time in history, waste to energy plans are being included in the federal options. So every year there are federal options towards the energy producers. And it's the first time that waste to energy has been included in these plans. So that's a big step forward. The first auction is scheduled for September, late September this year. So if you look at waste in Brazil, well, if we see the capacity, well, Brazil has the potential to build 250 plants of 200 megawatt each, meeting 6.4% of the national demand for electricity. So there's quite some opportunities here for us. Today, there are only 10 smaller waste energy plants with 1 to 5 mega power installed. So still a lot of work to do. I'm moving to agriculture. Agriculture, well, Brazil is, agriculture in Brazil is the sector, the biggest one and the one which is most growing. So if you see the overall targets of Brazil, they need 220, 230 billion US to achieve its climate goals by 2030. And agriculture, land use and forest are main sectors to reach these goals. These are the plans or priorities of the Minister of Agriculture. So just have a look at the right side. What are the priority actions? And you can see where, cleantech-wise, we can have, let's say, an opportunity. It would be innovation. It would be in low carbon tropical technology, forest management, technical support, and value-added production. So where did we really see the opportunities, real opportunities for our companies in agriculture? It's in cultivation, the use of water. We will see next slides how much water is spent in agriculture. We can talk about agriculture in a controlled environment. In Sao Paulo, we have the biggest, largest vertical urban farm in Latin America, a shed of 750 square meters. A touchy one, sustainable forestry. It's okay, we can help with traceability. Animal breeding, there we have water, health, traceability, and everything which is related to infrastructure. Let's move to the last part, which is water treatment. To the right, you see the current situation, which is not really looking that good. So in blue, you see the availability of drinkable water. You will see immediately in the north, the poorer area, only 57% of people have access to drinkable water. And if we look at sewage treatment, it's even worse. There you see in the north, you have only 10, or in the northeast, 28% of coverage. So that implies that 35 million of Brazilians, they lack supply of treated water, and 100 million are deprived of proper sewage coverage. So there are two problems here. One is towards the population, but the second one is towards the industry, because the industry also needs water. So Brazil has had large periods of serious drought, and the risk was calculated for the industry, and the result was in 2017 that if we would enter in a new scenario of severe water crisis, we would be risking 13% of the GDP. And that would imply in 2035 projected risk of 500 billion reais. Again, divide by 6.5 to get an idea in euro where we are looking at. So plans are in place. There's a 20-year project ending in 2033. The main goal is to reach 99% of all households by 2033. To the right, you will see where this money is going to be invested. It's most of it is on the coastline, is the most densely populated and also the most industrialized part of Brazil. And we're looking at an investment of 411 billion reais over the next 20 years. So what happens with water, or what's the problem with water, or where is it used? Well, if you look at it at the right side, you will see that the biggest chunk is being used in agriculture. So there's a huge pressure both from internal and external market to reduce the consumption of water. But the same is true for the industries. So if you look both at industry and agriculture, both are looking for new solutions, such as how to reuse water, water treatment, new technology, corrosion protection, solutions to avoid foiling, flotation, reverse osmosis. So there's a lot of possibilities for us here. Who is available, who is active? I think the usual suspects, US, DuPont, down. On the back, on the last two lines, I'm mentioning the sugarcane case and the effluent treatment station case. We will launch a trade proposal this week or next week, which can be interesting. We'll just explain the first one, sugarcane case. Ethanol is very important in Brazil. So a lot of sugarcane is being used to produce ethanol, but you need 12 liters of water to produce 1 liter of ethanol. So what to do with the waste? So there's some project going on, and this will be part of our trade proposal. And the idea is to separate, to have on one side clean water again, and to get on the other side fertilizers and other usable elements out of it.
Okay, Dirk, 1 minute.
Yeah, and the last one is, of course, desalination. Brazil has a huge coastline, so this gives a lot of opportunities to convert this into drinkable water. At this moment, we have one big treatment plant, which is in the north, in the Sierra. It's a 30-year project, 3.2 million. But this is now slowly but surely coming up. ArcelorMittal will also build its first plant in Brazil. And the last point is the Agua Doce program, which is more directed towards the rural communities. We're talking about capacities of 4,000 liters per day. But I saw that some of the participants are active in this field, so that can be an opportunity. So this was a very quick overview. I'm always happy to hear from you, or you will have my contact details, so feel free to contact me if you need further info. Thank you. So now I leave the floor to my colleague, Carlos from Buenos Aires.
Well, thank you very much, Dirk. Good morning to everybody. Well, I'm going to give you a very quick overview of the opportunities you can find in Argentina, which are very vast. First of all, let me say that because of the geographical position of Argentina and because of the area, lots of opportunities are to be found within the country in everything dealing with renewable energy. Argentina has, of course, a very long tradition in renewable energy because of the oil crisis in '73 and because of the big crisis in the area in '75. Because of that, the government, successive Argentinian governments and successive different provincial administrations have been interested in developing alternative possibilities to the one they had problems with. Because of that, the first solar car was created in 1977, and the first household to be connected to solar energy took place in 1979. In the mid-80s, Argentina was interested in manufacturing satellites. And because of that, the first Argentinian manufacturer of solar panels was the National Atomic Energy Agency, which is one of the 4 manufacturers of this type of materials these days. The Argentinian program for renewable energy enshrines in the Renovar program, which was okayed by the Parliament in 2016. By this, 20% of all energy produced in the country should be renewable by 2025. At present, the total investment amount goes to $5 billion American dollars. Opportunities are to be found in the following sectors within the renewable energy. Solar panels, with 25 solar farms in the country. It has increased by 304% in December 2020. And this in private homes which have been connected, SMEs, industries, and in some other areas such as schools. This is a panorama of where Argentina is located and how what the photovoltaic power potential of the country might be. In terms of wind energy, Argentina has 3 specific zones, which are the 2 ones facing the South Atlantic Ocean in the southern part of the province of Buenos Aires and then mid-Patagonia. This one facing the South Atlantic winds, and this the west winds. There is a third possibility for this in northern Argentina, close to the borders with Chile and Bolivia, in a very mountainous area. Biomass energy is also important in the country because of the production in agriculture. So 10 plants have been opened so far. And there have been projects to open up new ones in other areas, such as in areas where fruits are grown and in areas where other type of materials can be used as wood. Biogas energy is also important. At present, between 60 and 80 plants are active, and among them 20 big ones. 2 provinces have recently opened up to biogas energy coming from waste dumps. Biofuels is also important in the country because it is one of the most important exporters of this type of I would say biofuels. In 2019, nearly 83 million tons have been exported. In terms of hydroelectric or big hydroelectric facilities, the country counts on 39 of them, 2 being shared with 2 neighboring countries, such as one with Uruguay and the other with Paraguay. There are no new programs for this type of hydroelectric facilities, but maintenance is something which might give foreign companies a possibility of taking part in providing with materials and technology. Small hydroelectric facilities are being encouraged by municipalities and some provinces too. And there are no restrictions for this type of facilities. Geothermal energy is also important at this very moment, with nearly 5 or 6 defined areas in the remote part of the country, in the middle places and provinces, close to the coast and to the north. At present, there are 3 facilities which are operative. Tide energy and wave motor energy is also important and is being developed at this very moment. There's only one project in all this area, which is in the mid-Patagonia, and a Swedish company is taking part in this project. That Swedish company has been looking for partners in the last 4 years. This is the total amount of renewable energy which is operative at this very moment in the country, with the different types of sources which are being used. Another chapter which is important at this very moment is hydrogen. Hydrogen is being encouraged very strongly by the government through 2 important clusters. The one of them is being formed by the national and state-run oil company, and together with the National Institute for Research. And the other one is being formed by private companies. The successful agreement which they have been able to reach was the one between the TCI company, which is a branch of an international company in the country, and the company Buquebus, which is the ferry company linking Argentina to Uruguay. In terms of all renewable parks or renewable energy parks in Argentina, there are 60. 32 of them are commercially exploited at the moment, with wind energy in the southern part of the country, solar energy in the northern and mountainous area, and biomass and biogas and small hydroelectric facilities all over the places. Solid waste is also important. 100% of waste collection everywhere in the country. And 60% of the collected solid waste goes to treatment plants, and 40% goes to open air dumps. What is needed at this very moment, or what is required from international companies which can take part at tenders through local partners, are technologies for compost systems, technologies for organic waste treatments, and technologies for plastic waste and solid wastes. And water treatment, those are it's mostly in the hands of private companies, especially industries, which are responsible according to law for their, I would say, used waters. and municipalities are also interested in developing everything which is dealing with household used water. Well, this has been a quick panorama over the possibilities and the chances you can get in Argentina. I give the floor back to my colleague in Chile now. Thank you very much for your attention.
Good afternoon. Greetings from sunny Santiago de Chile. My name is Piet Maurice, and I arrived in Santiago in November of last year. So I'm very far from being an expert, but I'm going to try to awake your interests to pay some more attention to the possibilities and opportunities in Chile. Chile has a very ambitious national energy policy plan in place and aims to reach 60% of non-conventional renewable energy by 2040 and even 70% by 2050. Chile is a long country, rich in different climates. In the north and the center, a desert and Mediterranean climate ideal for generating solar energy. In the south, a Barsea climate, ideal for wind energy and hydro generation, and the more than 400 kilometers coastline are a great potential for oceanic energy. Chile made renewable energy targets a few years ago. By 2025, 20% would have come out of renewable energy. They're going to be way past that number. Like I said, also by 2040, 60%, and by 2050, 70%. Under the term of non-conventional renewable energy are the sectors of solar energy, wind energy, biomass, geothermal energy, ocean energy, and mini hydro generation. Here you have on the chart an overview of the installed non-conventional renewable energy, where you see that the two more important sectors are wind and solar energy. According to a publication of Invest Chile, Chile considers himself as a clean energy leader in the world, and they are developing today the energy for tomorrow. They are the national laboratory of the energy of the future. They develop new sustainable energy technology. They have the best conditions for solar energy production in the world, optimal wind energy potential, the perfect conditions further to develop marine energy along their 4,000 coastline, important geothermal energy reserves, and densely forested southern regions are a source for biomass fuel. The chart shows the increase of investment in those non-conventional renewable energies in the last years and the growing importance also. This chart shows the impressive increase of especially solar and wind energy installed capacity in the last years. Solar with more than 4,000 hours of sunshine in the north region, especially in the Atacama desert, and also the high levels of solar radiations. Wind with the power plants with a great capacity, especially also in the Magallanes region. These two interesting charts show the generation of electrical energy and the capacity installed. You can see that renewable energy show an increase of 17% in comparison with 2020. The conventional shows a decrease of 20% and the thermic also a decrease of 3%. And in the installed capacity, we can see an increase of more than 10% compared to 2020, especially in the solar sector. Here is a map of a project. that has been published by the Chilean Association of Renewable Energy. Go to the website and you can find all the projects that are going on, the projects that are going to take place. And if you click on them, you will receive full detailed information about the different projects. Another very important sector that is being promoted lately by Chile is the sector of green hydrogen. Invest in Chile also made here a very interesting brochure aimed at potential investors, where you can find very large information about why you should pay interest to that sector, and also the possibilities that exist. Just wanted to speak and show a little bit fast about the 4 projects in the green hydrogen. So the first project is by Clean Technologies Institute with a financing of nearly $200 million with special focus on solar energy, sustainable mining, and advanced lithium and other mineral materials. The second one is the HYEX project that focuses on the production of green ammonia for use in producing ammonium nitrate. Here you can see that Engie is part of the project. The Hydra project focuses on developing mining trucks with fuel cells. Here also Engie is participating in the project. The fourth one is the dual hydrogen diesel engines for mining trucks, where Germany is also present in the projects. Chile is confident that they will be able to export the surplus of green hydrogen they produce. And they are already busy with concrete plans. They just signed last week an MOU with the port of Rotterdam to use as an entry to the European market. And they also have a realistic project already with Germany. Well, Port of Antwerp is also showing interest, and some other Belgian companies also. So we'll see, and we are following that project also from very close. As you know, Chile is the world-class mining destination. They are the biggest producer of copper, with big production also of gold, iron, zinc, lithium, molybdenum, and much more. Here is an update guide of the Chilean mining, powering the green economy, with a detailed information of 28 projects under exploration. Those are mainly based in the northern part of the country, and the use of renewable energy is also considered to be very important to those projects. An overview of the projects, mainly so in the north and the center of the country. And here also, if you go on the website, you will be able to find a very detailed information about each of those projects. But thanks to Chile's open attitude for foreign investors and its growing renewable energy market, there are numerous opportunities for Flemish companies. For example, several Belgian companies are already active in the Chilean market, going from startups like Turbulent, who are producers of mini hydraulic installations, and Solcor, who arrived here in Chile 5 years ago, and they are already one of the leaders of photovoltaic solar panels. Two very experienced players like Machiels, Waterloo, or Vinke, just to mention a couple of them. CME, Solvay are also present here, and I had no time to develop a little bit more the sectors of water treatment and waste management or transformation of waste, but the presence and the expertise of those important Flemish companies already active in Chile speak for themselves, and there is certainly room for other ones. Companies specialized in know-how or innovative technologies are welcome with open arms, as Chile realizes all too well that it can use all the help it can get to meet its very ambitious renewable energy goals. Of course, we are here at the office at your disposal to give you some more information, and we hope we can help you identify possible partners or companies interested in doing business with some more Flemish company. So this is for me, and I would like to pass the floor now to my lovely colleague from Lima.
Good morning. My name is Stephanie. I work at the Lima office. Thank you for joining to this webinar. First, I would like to mention or give an overview of the country of Peru. Peru is located on the west central coast of South America. Of Peru's total population, approximately 36% lives in the capital, Lima. And Lima, Peru is the third largest country in South America after Brazil and Argentina. And regarding the economy, according to the World Bank, Peru is expected to grow around 8% this year, becoming one of the countries with the strongest economic growth in the region. Each day, around 20,000 tons of waste is generated in the country, of which 73% can be reused. This means that this waste can be either recycled or used as inputs for new products. And what cannot be reused, of course, must be sent to landfills. As you may see in this slide, Lima, the capital, generates around 44% of the total solid waste generated in the country. And as previously mentioned, Lima also represents 36% of the country's total population. In contrast to other countries, in Peru, there's no weight-based pricing system for municipal solid waste collection. So owners of real property pay municipal taxes, what we know as arbitrios municipales. So these owners pay for public services such as garbage collection, transport, transfer, final disposal, but also for improvement of parks and citizen security. According to experts, Peruvians pay 50% less than what it should be paid, and despite this, there's a high rate of municipal tax arrears. Peru has 56 sanitary landfills and 6 secure landfills. Among the sanitary landfills, there's one that converts waste into energy, the Huaycolores sanitary landfill, which is owned by the company Petramas, and it captures methane and transforms into renewable energy. It is worth noting that there are major differences among regions with respect to the infrastructure available for final disposal of waste. These sanitary landfills cover only 10% of the total districts of Peru, and Peru has more than 1,800 districts. So this means that around 192 districts have a sanitary landfill. According to the Ministry of Environment, it is estimated that the country would need around 350 sanitary landfills for a final disposal of solid waste. And of course, not having enough landfills lead to the appearance of not only critical solid waste points, but also to illegal waste disposal sites known as dumps. As you may see in this slide, there's a picture of a sanitary landfill that has been recently inaugurated this year in February, I think. Regarding renewable energy, in Peru, electricity generation has been historically concentrated in conventional water sources. However, the country's energy matrix changed in the last 2 decades. From the start of the Camisea project in 2004, electricity production with natural gas increased. However, it was later reduced by the entrance of renewable energy power plants. As previously mentioned, Peru's energy matrix is dominated by the use of hydric sources and natural gas. However, the production of electricity using renewable sources is expected to increase in the following years, as Peru's energy matrix will tend to become a diversified one. Currently, non-conventional renewable sources such as solar and wind energy together represent 5% of Peru's energy production. The country has a great potential for renewable energy sources. In case of wind, the areas on the coast are the ones with the greatest potential for wind generation, especially Ica, which has the most wind power in the entire country. And Ica is located near to Lima in the south part. Regarding biomass, there are 3 major regions in which we can find sugarcane bagasse, rice and coffee husks, and forest residues that can be used. Regarding geothermal energy, Peru has more than 156 identified geothermal areas, and more than 50 of the geothermal energy potential is concentrated in the southern region of the country. Regarding water treatment, I would like to mention that Peru is a country abundant in water. It ranks among the top 10 richest countries in terms of total water resources. And the main source are river and lake basins, which start in the Andes. For example, in Lima, more than 50% of the water comes from the Mantaro River. Unfortunately, this resource is not necessarily located in the places where there's a greater demand, which is why the country suffers from water stress and scarcity. For example, 2% of water resources is available in the coastal area. However, in the coastal area is where 70% of the country's population is concentrated. In these coastal areas, we can also find the largest cities such as Lima. And Lima is also the second largest desert city in the world. The provision of sanitation services in urban areas is the responsibility of 50 water and sanitation service providers. And as previously mentioned, it is important to highlight that almost 80% of Peru's total population live in urban areas. And with the support of these 50 providers, sanitation service has experienced sustainable growth in recent years. And according to current figures, the national average for water coverage is 90% in urban areas, and 78% of wastewater is treated. As you may see in this image, this is the La Chira wastewater treatment plant, one of the 2 wastewater treatment plants that are in Lima and the most important ones. It is also important to mention that despite the efforts done in the sector, supplying water and providing sanitation services is still a challenge for the government and for the country. And to finish my presentation, I would like to share with you some of the projects that have been targeted for this year in electricity and water and the water sector. So as you may see, there are some projects related to wastewater treatment, like Huancayo, Tambo and Chica wastewater treatment plants. But also we can see another project related to natural gas, which is an important resource for electricity generation in the country. And well, having said this, we are also, or me to say, are keen to have contact with all the companies that are present in this webinar, and we are able and willing to help you identifying potential business partners and opportunities in the country, because there's a wide there are wider and more opportunities to be developed in the country. Thank you for your attention. Now I give the floor to Ralph.
Thank you very much for all your presentation introductions. I appreciate that I did not allow you too much time to cover a lot, but you did splendidly. I think in any case, it was just a high-level introduction. There was a lot more details, as you've seen in those PowerPoints. And we will make those available to you here to answer your question. Yes, the PowerPoints and the video will be made available. Next up, I'm very, very happy that we can now give the floor to a company testimonial. So we gave you a lot of theory. We'll share those presentations with you, with those studies and the links and everything that's in there. But maybe to really motivate you, some words of experience of somebody, a company that has done it before, like a number of you, but we have asked one to share their experiences. Now, the company that we ask is Vinker. I think Peter or his brother Dieter or the father Dirk need little introduction. They are a biomass to energy solutions provider. They're from Heidelberg, as Peter never fails to mention. But joking aside, I think they're really a global player. They have offices worldwide, but they have more important customers worldwide. I mean, I've written down a few things here. Yeah, they've been nominated as Company of Entrepreneur of the Year. Peter was even mentioned nominated as Manager of the Year. But I think let's just give Peter the floor. And thank you, Peter, for joining us and for sharing your experiences. We can see your background. And we see Peter.
And now you see me. And the next slide is not working. You hear me also, Ralph?
We hear you very well.
Yeah. Good. And loud enough? Yeah?
Yes, all good.
Okay. Before, while we go some deeper into what the Vinkeneers are doing in Latin America, maybe some general information first. I'm alone here, yeah. We are 360 Vinkeneers and I'm alone here, but that's a good reason, therefore, because we have Jason. Jason would have been with us today, but he's in Thailand today. We're finishing a big energy plant there. Also, Liu Li is not with us here today. He's in China. We're also finishing a big project. You'll find Vincent always want to be there when there is something of FIT, but he's in North Korea now, in South Korea now, excuse me. In an end negotiation for a big project. Matthijs and his team, you know them, Ralph? Matthijs is also not here, but they are in northern Pakistan now. We have a project there that is not going so well, so he's there with the team trying to solve it. Clara is also not with us. She's in the Czech Republic. She's working on a global HR policy with her colleagues in Asia right now. And Wim is also not here because he's in Ghana, Africa. We're starting up a cocoa plant for Cargill there. But trust me, I talk on their behalf on those Vinkeneers. We Together with my brother, we have a family holding where we're active in different businesses next to Vinke. We'll only focus on Vinke today because that's the only business with whom we are active in Latin America. With Vinke, we've done in the last 2 years an average turnover of around 120 million euro. We were talking about COVID a little early in the presentations. Last year, we've sold more than the year before. In the last 2 years, we've built 134 new plants in 37 countries. We have replaced with these plants around 2.2 million ton crude oil. That is, to give you an idea, that is the volume of 9 super tankers. And a super tanker is a ship that has the size that can, for example, block the Suez Canal. We do this with 360 Vinkeniers operating from the Czech Republic and Brazil, and here in Flanders, Thailand, Spain, Germany, China, and Malaysia. And we serve you in 28 languages. You know, we're a Southwest Flemish company. We're over 100 years old, so it's very obvious that we have our history and background in the flax industry. Shortly on how we see things, what is our vision? Ralph introduced shortly, we built CO2 neutral biomass-fired energy plants. We serve the industry. We don't serve governments, we don't serve private houses. Our customers are global corporate industries or local champions. Where are we going? That was a question our father, the third generation, asked us when my brother and we took over. And we've summarized it for him in a beer card, how we see things. While the third generation has put the Vinke flag in each country of the world, it is the ambition or the strategy or the vision of the fourth generation to be the standard and the reference now in every country where we are active. We do this with a lot of respect for our history and within the context or the limits of our 3 core values, which in Southwest Flemish is only one word, Jeunen. But translate to English, we will need 3 words. It is a Vinkenier has gejunt himself when he goes to bed in the evening, when he has reached an ambitious goal. He has done this together with others in alignment, but he could find himself in there. For people who want to know how this looks, the product we supply to Latin America, our machines are 30 meter long, 20 meter wide, 20 meter high. For example, this is how it looks like. You see the size of a human being there to have an idea of the scale. Here we have built in Luxembourg the first green data center for Google. In the same Luxembourg, we've built the central heating for Kirchberg and the European Court. For the whiskey fans amongst you, we've transformed most of the whiskey brands in Scotland from fossil fuels to biomass. This one I've put in for you, Ralph, for some good memories to your Singapore. We have built in Gardens by the Bay, we have built an energy plant that takes all the prunings from the country of Singapore and turns them into electricity and cooling for the hotel, the Gardens by the Bay, and the casino. And I'll maybe jump immediately to where we want to be in Latin America. We're a global company, Ralph introduced us, and we also work together as a global company. And let's maybe practice the national flags for a while. This is a project we have done in Argentina for our customer Noble Resources, and then that's the first flag, is stock listed in Hong Kong. We've sold the project, and that's the second flag, with our team in Malaysia, with a decision maker in Singapore. We've done then the basic engineering here in Flanders. We've done the detail engineering with the Vinkeniers in the Czech Republic. We've built the plant in our factory in China. We shipped it to the end destination in Argentina, and our team from Brazil did the erection and commissioning. And so we have arrived in Latin America. One more thing, we are a family business. which allows us to work with an infinite time horizon. We can build on strategies, come up with ideas where we think that maybe they will be successful in 5 or 10 years from now. Not necessarily everything is then successful 5 or 10 years later, but we no need to produce results in the quarter or in the year. And you'll hear later, this infinite time horizon is maybe necessary to enter Latin America. We also want, my brother and me, we also want to our family business to continue. The only thing we could do for now is make a next generation. So my brother and me, we have 9 children, each with our wife, of course. And now to where we want to be today is in Latin America. The Buccaneers have started in Latin America. That was in 1982. We've supplied the first plant to Honduras. And from then it continued. We continue to supply to Latin America because it's a fun place to be. So we're attracted to do more. We've built the first large wood-based panel plant in Brazil in '96. We opened our own office in Brazil in '99. We did our first turnkey complete project in Brazil in 2015. Today we have built around 60 plants, both for corporate multinationals and local champions. We have around 12 Buccaneers dedicated to this market, and it's around today 10 to 15% of our market. And now Ralph has asked to keep it short. He says you're number 5 who will speak. So try to limit yourself to 3 lessons. Well, from the thousands of lessons we have learned, we will share with you today 3 lessons learned in Latin America. The first one, and that should not be a surprise, Latin America is huge. It's huge. Only Brazil is already very, very big. Like the last 6 projects we did in Latin America, we are 4 hours drive away from the nearest airport. To us, if we see the world from Europe here and look at Latin America, we have no idea of the size and distances. Me, myself, not only so long ago, I was at a fair in Germany where we had a customer in Mexico, in Durango, who said, Peter, the plant is running for 2 years now, you have not yet visited us. And I said, look, next time I'm in Latin America, I'll drop by and visit you. And so next time I was in Latin America, I was in Rio Grande do Sul, south of Brazil, and then I dropped by in Mexico, Durango. The flight to go from the south to Brazil to where I had to be in Mexico took longer than the flight from Brussels directly to Mexico. It's huge, 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 huge. So you have whatever you want to do, whether it's a strategy by design or by opportunity, you have to pick your markets. It's too big to see it and address it as one market. And now we come immediately to the second lesson learned. It is all different countries and all different markets. The biggest difference is Brazil from all the rest. Yeah. Brazil is a country that is very inward organized, while the rest of Latin America is more open, more easier to receive export, for us to export to that country. Brazil is rather closed for import. Same like Brazilian customers, if you they want to see Brazilian references. It doesn't matter that you have built a reference in Peru and Colombia and Venezuela and Argentina and Paraguay and Uruguay. If you have not done it in Brazil, it's not a reference for them. Brazil is also it's very local. If you are, while worldwide it is already Anheuser-Busch InBev, in Brazil it's still AmBev, like it has never changed anything. We have the same experience with our customer PepsiCo. Corporate multinationals have to follow the local policy in Brazil. You'll also see difference in reception. If you're in an office or in a meeting in Chile, I mostly have to ask myself, can I have a coffee? While in the north, you receive a warmer reception. You'll find that, and this at this side and here, you'll find that the southern cone of Latin America is very much oriented to Europe. So there's also, when they take holidays, when the Chileans, Argentinians, they take holiday, they take it in Europe. When they go for studying, they do it in Europe. Where in the north is very much oriented to the US. And the people from Peru, or Ecuador and Colombia, they study in the US, they have a holiday house in the US, and they take holidays there. Brazil, on the other hand, is then not US oriented nor Europe oriented, it's very Brazil oriented. And like I said, we have our office in Brazil since 20 years, that we are locally organized. We are in Rio Grande do Sul in the south, close to Porto Alegre. It has not been an easy track the last 20 years. For example, exchange rate has been a massive problem in Brazil. In the 20 years that we are there, we've seen the exchange rate from the euro to the reais to go from 2.3 to almost 7 reais for a euro. You will find in Brazil that loans are very expensive. Taxes is a very, very complicated system. It's very bureaucratic, the taxes. You'll find strong unions in Brazil. They have a very difficult and complicated law system. And also their import system, their import taxes system is very bureaucratic. On the other hand, we do, next to all those maybe negative points, we do good business there. We can sell at a higher price than the locals because of the reputation you have as a European. And as a European, you have easier access to the management of your customers where the decisions are being taken. And then the third lesson, doing business in Latin America has much more to do with trust rather than thick contracts. So if it's all built on trust, you'll have to invest and look for local representation, because even language can be a problem. Even big companies, the management, not necessarily speaks English. So you'll have to work on the trust, visit frequently, take time to do business, to build on the relationship, make some time for lunch, for dinner. And you'll be, while we'll talk about time, you can be disappointed in Latin America on the concept of time. Decisions, they invite you, they say, we will invest, and then it can take years to make a decision. It's very much mañana has a different meaning than we have here in the European continent. For people who know Chile, if you ask something in Chile and they say, I'll bring it directly to you, they say, al tiro huevón, and al tiro means that's the speed with which a bullet leaves a gun. But it still can take hours and days and weeks. And in Mexico, they say ahorita, and ahorita is the short form for, or the small form for ahora, now, but this also can take weeks and days. So be prepared for a different time concept. Ralph, to summarize, you said me 3 lessons. So what we have learned today, 1, it's a huge market, it's a continent. Pick your markets, start somewhere and work from there. 2, that you have to dedicate time. You have to invest time, you have to frequent visits, be there with your customers, dedicate sufficient time. And 3, like we said, it's built on trust. You'll have to be there. You have to be there yourself frequently to meet with the customer and on relationships. And why are we? I focus maybe on the challenges of this continent. Why are we since 40 years and still so active in Latin America? Because, and this I picked you, Peter Embo, I see you're following. I took this picture for you. Latin America is a fun place to do business. And if you want to know where they serve the best pisco sour, it's of course not in Chile, but in Peru. You'll need what we call of Dutch een hoogkeufsgehalte. Yeah? How you start in Latin America, well, it's just, if you want to start in Brazil, pick up your phone, book a ticket, fly there and start. This is the same at Vinke. Our strategy for the last 40 years has much more been a strategy of opportunity than by design. And then I want to finish, Ralph, with this slide. My secretary puts in the presentation always this slide. Whatever the context, whatever the subject, whomever the audience, it's always this slide. And then depending on the audience and the subject, I say this means this and this or that. But in this case, what it really means, it is It's literally, I don't know, but it means that failure is the mother of success. The honest story of the Vinkeniers in Latin America the last 40 years is that we have tried things, we have failed, and we have tried again. We have succeeded, and we have copied that success. So in order, the true story of the Vinkeniers in Latin America is also a story of sometimes falling and getting up again. Thank you so much, Ralph. Back to you now.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you very much for this wat hebben we vandaag geleerd approach. I think those were indeed very valuable lessons. I see you also did not fail to slot in a picture of the Harold Baker campus. I think yes, opportunities are plenty. Countries with interesting ambitions, but also the challenges that you mentioned. The huge continent by itself, and by definition, it's very diverse, and you need to pick your battles. A mix of unregulated and maybe somewhat less transparent markets, the uncertainty that you mentioned, etc. But also, I heard very much there are opportunities. There are these big players, industrial players with buying power. So indeed, also opportunities plenty indeed. And you need to invest in the countries, especially also invest your time and have feet on the ground. So thank you very much for that, Peter. If you can stay with us a bit longer. First. Now, before I give the floor and open the floor for Q&A, I just want to quickly acknowledge another person who was actually one of the people behind this idea to organize this kind of event and to focus more on Latin America. He's actually an ex-colleague of ours, Peter Embo, but I see he joined us today. He's now with the Ostend Science Park. So Peter, glad that you can join us today, and well, wish you all the best in your new job in Ostende. Now, I realized that today we focused mostly, if not entirely, on clean tech, and we basically completely ignored the white elephant in the room, and that is the local situation when it comes to COVID-19. I think we're so conditioned by now as such that we can indeed do a webinar and completely ignore a global health epidemic. But yours, I'm glad that you brought it up, and we had a question in this context, and that was very pragmatically about the access of your engineers to those markets and what the situation is. So I would like to propose that maybe we do a quick tour de table of our speakers and maybe ask them to briefly address the COVID-19 situation, but very specifically not dwell too much on the past. But focus on what the current situation is and what the opportunities are, maybe how the borders are open or allow for travel. So maybe Dirk, we'll maybe follow the same order. Can you maybe briefly touch upon that, the COVID-19 situation, and also from not just purely from the human and point of view, but also from a business point of view, what it means for our companies and our business people.
Okay. Right, thanks, Ralph. Yeah, that's indeed a very touchy point because, in fact, in Brazil, the first wave really never stopped. And now we are really in the worst part of the pandemic. We are now reaching, we have a 7 days average of 2,600, 2,700 fatalities per day, reaching sometimes 3,000. A lot of hospitals are, well, I would say part of the national health system collapsed. A lot of hospitals have waiting lists in the intensive care. So for the time being, we definitely recommend that nobody enters Brazil at this moment. If something happens, there's no guarantee that you will be treated. So that's from a human perspective what is happening. From an economical viewpoint, if we see the impact on the GDP, in fact, the impact was lesser than expected. Okay, of course, it went down. The first month of 2021 surprisingly showed a small increase. But it's still too soon. Where are we going to end up? I mean, today we're in fact in a obligatory, mandatory 10-day holiday period. Well, it's decided state by state, but here in Sao Paulo, they even put forward holidays from 2021 in order to create a 10-day holiday in order to try to contain the pandemic. To say what will be the impact on the companies and the Flemish companies in general, it's very hard to predict at this moment. I mean, it's crystal ball looking. Yeah, but the only good thing I would say is the impact 2020 GDP has been less than predicted, and we saw the first positive sign first weeks of 2021. But what's going to follow? Honestly, I would like to be able to tell you, but I can't.
Okay. Well, thank you for your honest feedback. Is the best we can do. Maybe Carlos, I think you were the next speaker. Any insights on your country?
Yes, thank you very much for the for this question. Well, the impact is that we still have closed borders, especially with Brazil and Paraguay and Chile. And well, there's a ban now on flights to and from Brazil, Chile and Mexico. There's at this very moment, there's a meeting between the president and the governors of provinces, because in the past the decisions were taken by the federal government, and now the federal government is transferring the responsibility of possible lockdowns to provinces. At the same time, Argentinians who are on holidays abroad are having problems because they are stranded in some countries. We have 37,000 people with problems, and people are vaccinated here, but there has not been any restriction for foreigners coming into the country. I mean, from the European Union, the United States, and some specific countries. But the situation is very dynamic. And those people, of course, have to be tested before checking in and before arriving in the country within 48 hours. Well, they are tested once again. They get into the country. So it's very dynamic. So for people willing to visit the country, I would suggest to have a look at the website of immigration authority, because it's dynamic. I would say every 24, 48 hours. There's not there's much talk about possible strict lockdown after this week. I mean, after Monday, when Easter time is over. They do not want to do that now because of two reasons. One is this is a by-election year, and because of that, the federal government is trying to transfer the responsibility to the provinces. And on the other side, because, well, there's what we call the touristic week. So the government do not want to affect reservations or hotels and that sector. I would say it's complicated. In terms of the GDP, well, it went down by 10% in 2020. And the only, I would say, the only sectors which have been increasing were the e-commerce by 84%, then medical and assistance and everything dealing with medicines and ventilators and all those things. and the rest, well, we have no information so far. So coming back to the point, it's important to have a look at the website of the Migration Authority for those willing to come down to Argentina. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Carlos. As indeed, as you mentioned, I'll give the floor to the other two colleagues, but if you have any particular questions, specific questions, do reach out to us. We are keeping tab on the local situations, and we can help you in planning and making sure what is possible, if there's exceptions, etc. Next, Pete, yes, maybe some insights in your country on this.
Well, in Chile, they are for the moment massively vaccinating people. For the moment, 43% of the Chileans received their first dose of the vaccine, and 22% of the Chileans have received already the second dose. On the other hand, we are again in a complete lockdown. So, and one of the reasons is that people who already received the second dose, they think, well, no, we are fine, we're okay, we can live like before, so we don't have to take care of nothing. So there is some control of the authorities just to try to be harder with that, and to make understand to the people that it's not over yet, far from that. The borders are open, so you can fly in from Europe, you can fly in from the US. The rules are every day a little bit harder, so you need a PCR test with results of less than 272%. Now, apparently, you have to go the first 5 days mandatory to a hotel, isolated in a hotel. Doing a PCR test again after 5 days. If it's negative, okay, you can leave it, but you still need to stay in quarantine for another 5 days in your place. And if it's positive, you have to stay longer in your hotel for a couple more weeks. So for 10 more days. So it makes a little bit difficult, but at least the borders are open. I think there are some restrictions with Argentina and Brazil. I don't know exactly. But for the rest, you know, they were doing good, and they were expecting a rise in cases again because holidays are over. January, February are holiday months. March, people are coming back to the city. They go back to work. School starts again. So they were expecting a raise again in that point. For the rest, they are doing their best. They show that the amount of vaccines that they done, and so we'll see how it goes from here.
Okay, thank you, Pete. Stephanie.
Yes, well, for Peru, last year Peru suffered one of the deepest recessions in the region. However, a strong recovery of the Peruvian economy is expected for the following years. And of course, Peru was one of the first countries who applied some hard measures to avoid the expansion of the COVID. So we had a total confinement, which according to the Ministry of Economy, generated a loss of 1 point of the GDP weekly. So it was we were hard hit by COVID, but this year the scenario is more promising. Regarding current measures, only flights from the UK, South America, and Brazil are suspended until tomorrow. Maybe today or tomorrow the government will talk about new measures. And this Thursday and Friday we also have a mandatory quarantine. Travelers must quarantine for 14 days upon arrival, but they can also do another test, and if the result is negative, then they can suspend it. And regarding the most promising sector for this year, construction, mining, and commerce are the sectors where we foresee more opportunities.
Okay, thank you for that. I will now revert to some of the questions that were asked in the chat, and then I'll open the floor. You can raise your hand if you have any other questions after that. I think we still have a bit more time foreseen. Thank you if you can still stay with us, and do raise your questions if you had. Now, yours, you had a question, a very specific question about the ArcelorMittal desalination plant. I think it was a bit of a more broader question that was also touched upon by Peter about maybe the Mañana thing and how things are put on the long term, and maybe the uncertainty of certain projects and what makes things move ahead or holds them back. So maybe a question for Dirk. So the concrete question from Joris was, why would that particular project now kick off, and what is the context? Maybe while you are, give you the floor, Anne also had a question about offshore wind in Brazil, what is moving there.
All right. So concerning the first one, ArcelorMittal, I think one of the triggers for them to build this plant was the fact that during the severe water crisis in 2015, they were asked to reduce their consumption by 30%. So it was in their own interest to do something to get enough water supply to keep on functioning. Yeah, I read in your question that indeed this started in 2009. Okay, as Peter Vink already said, Brazil, it's not an easy country to do business with, but once you're in, you're in. Once you pass the girdle, you're in and you're protected. Now, what's the actual status? The project has been approved, I think, last year or in 2019. Construction is ongoing, and the status, as we know today, is that by end of this year, 2021, they would be operational.
Okay. Maybe the question by Anne about the offshore wind in Brazil, is that moving ahead?
Yeah, that's moving ahead. So they're now studying different offshore wind parks, basically in Ceará, Rio de Janeiro, Rio Grande do Sul. I don't have exact figures here about the capacity which will be installed, but yeah, definitely this is now on the roadmap. What I could do, and that could be helpful, we have a report here available with the exact roadmap on the rollout of offshore wind parks. So we can provide this, so it gives you a clear and objective idea on what's happening there.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Dirk. Peter Vink, I want to come back to you, maybe in the context of the previous question, because you touched upon the the uncertainty of doing business. How do you actually deal with this as as you're not a multinational, you also have somewhat limited resources. So how do you deal with this uncertainty and these things, projects put on the long, put on the lange termijn? Sorry.
The long run.
Yes, indeed.
You hear me, Ralph?
Yes, I do.
First, I will answer to a question that you didn't ask me.
Oh.
What do I think? How about whether how Latin America is affected by COVID? When I hear the other testimonials, then apparently at Vinke territory we are less affected by COVID than elsewhere. The last, I told you earlier, the 2020 we were able to sell more, to have a higher order entry than 2019, and we were also able in the last year, we finished a big project in Ecuador. During we could do the erection and commissioning. We could visit customers in Colombia and in Brazil. We traveled a lot to Latin America. So of course it's restricted, and you have to be, if you deal with people who are in the higher risk zone, you have to be careful. For the rest, My point would be, whatever the other testimonials are, the Vinkeniers have been very active the last 12 months in Latin America. And for the people who want to enter Latin America, please do not use COVID not as an excuse not to enter now Latin America. As an answer to the question you didn't ask me, Ralph. Okay. For your other question, uncertainty, the Latin America is good for 15% only of our turnover. So to put all your eggs in one basket and say we will go full force in Latin America, I think is a very bad idea. I think Latin America is also investing a little bit in the day after tomorrow. So, and I think every company should make 5 or 10 or 15% of its resources available for the markets to come. Okay, you could say about Brazil, and your local contacts will confirm that. Brazil is the country or the country of the future. And some people then say most probably it will always remain the country of the future. There is a joke about all the people, the Spanish-speaking people from Latin America who go to God and say, God, why you put all the natural resources in Brazil, all the gold and natural resources, so everything is in Brazil and not in the rest. And God says, don't you worry, you will see which people I put there. So yes, it's true. It's a lot of these countries will remain the country of the future. I think Africa will much sooner be more important for most European countries than Latin America. But I think if you go for, and that's how we deal with it, we put like from the 360 Vinkeniers, 12 Vinkeniers are dedicated to Latin America. So I think if you're in high risk markets that are uncertain, you should dose and limit your resources.
Okay. Peter, I'm going to stick with you. You showed this interesting slide where you said we delivered this one particular project and all these different offices or sites were involved to make it a success. And indeed, there were decision makers, not necessarily in even on the continent. I saw this recent announcement where you went to do a partnership with this, was it a Swiss group, and that then resulted in some concrete projects in Latin America. So in this context, I think it's very refreshing that you pointed that out, but also maybe a broader question. How do you recommend to go to these particular markets? Would you go with a partner? Would you go it alone? Set up your own entities, or what has been your experiences, or is there any lesson to be drawn from that?
I think the future, and whether this goes now about Latin America or the rest of the world, I think the model of Henry Ford is dead. Yeah? We see two trends in the global market. One trend, customers want more complete solutions. You cannot come up with a small element of their total problem that you say, look, I do this or this. Customers look at you and they want you, and which in beautiful Flemish is called totale ontzorging, a total solution for their problem. So that is one trend in the market, that you'll have to think deeper into the process and of your customers and bring a total solution. That is one trend in the market. The second trend in the market is that with local authorities, they want your machines or whatever you deliver to consume less water, less electricity, better for the environment, less emissions. So each individual solution has to meet higher standards of efficiency and so on. So these both trends sound like a paradox, because if you want a total solution, then you look for a holistic approach. But if you want the details to be maximum efficiency, less water, less electricity, this asks for a specialist approach. And I think this paradox you can solve by cooperation, by working together. This is our vision on how this paradox of the two trends in the market have to be addressed, is by working together in a team. And the Henry Ford model, with one on the top saying how everything works, is dead for us, not only in Latin America, but worldwide.
Okay, thank you. I think it's a very valuable lesson. Sorry, for a number of our people in the call here today. I mean, a lot of them are very well, knowledgeable and expert players, but some of them are niche players. And I think indeed, if a customer wants total solutions, you need to partner up either within Vlaanderen or globally. So thank you for that, Peter. I saw Geert de Vries, you had a number of comments and remarks. I just want to maybe give you the floor, maybe pick one specific question for either anybody or a number of people in the panel, if you want, if you're still here. I think you can now unmute yourself. So Geert, please, happy to give you the floor. Geert? Is that working for you? Else, if it doesn't work, then please drop a note in the chat. Sure, if Lisbeth, you can assist in unmuting. I think he's still there. Okay. I think that is not working out, but I see that Piet Maurice raised his hand and wants to add something. So Piet, I'll give the floor to you.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to make a comment. I spent a long time of my career in Latin America. I was posted in Havana, I was posted in Caracas, I was posted in Buenos Aires, I was posted in Mexico, and now I'm posted in Santiago. Peter, I met your father, I think, more than 30 years ago. I don't remember where, but I know that I've met him. So I totally agree, and I find myself in the lessons that you were giving. What bothers me a little bit when we speak about Latin America is that in 30 years, I haven't seen a difference that we are still exporting less than 1% of total export to Latin America. So it's a continent where there are some possibilities. Of course, it's far away. It has to make with 85% of our companies are small and medium ones in Flanders, in Belgium. So taking 1 week or 10 days to go to Latin America without being sure to make business, so it's a little bit difficult. On the other side, I can only recommend them to come. You're not gonna make business with Latin America staying behind your desk in Belgium. So you have to come, and like Peter said, the first and most important thing, you have to make a trust relationship. You have to start to know each other, having a good dinner, drinking a good bottle of wine or wiki in Caracas, and then you can speak about the business the day after. But come and see them, come over, see the possibilities, and once you're in, you're gonna make some good business. So I'm very in favor of trying to increase the interest of our companies in doing business with the whole continent. So that's just what I wanted to say from my perspective.
Thank you, Piet. I think I touched upon it in my introduction. It's a market that it doesn't come natural to us, and it's a bit less known maybe for us in Flanders, Belgium. The whole Latin American doesn't come natural. Having said that, I come from my posting in Singapore. I looked after Southeast Asia. And we look at, I think Sabine did the exercise and looked at our trade numbers. We actually export more to Latin America than to the whole of Southeast Asia, even though there's a bigger hype maybe or attention now on Southeast Asia. But the Latin American market is a very concrete market where we are doing business and we are exporting and they are buying. So I just wanted to, as a follow-up of what Piet just mentioned, say that. I don't see any other particular questions, but I know there's one person who always likes to have the last word in this call. So Peter Vinke, I'll give you the last word. If you want to wrap up, any last message for the people here, and then I think we can conclude a bit ahead of time.
Okay.
Any more wisdom?
I'm here.
Yes.
Yeah. Piet said, I'll repeat, I'll echo what Piet said. If you want to be in South America, I'm not a specialist in physics, but you have to move. Yeah. So I think this has always been how my father started 50 years ago in making from our local family business a global company. This is This is not big strategies by design. They are mostly strategies by opportunity. You meet at a fair in France or Germany a guy in Mexico or from Mexico or Argentina, and you agree to go there and you buy a ticket and you fly there. And that is the last 50 years our international strategy. And this is also the first law of physics. If you want to move from point A to point B, you have to move. Yeah. And so I just echo what Piet says. You cannot be active in the Latin American market if you stay in Harelbeke or in Flanders, or you have to go there. So
okay, thank you. That's exactly the strong last message I wanted to hear from you, Peter. You never fail on that. With that, I think I think I want to conclude a bit ahead of time. If we missed out on anything, then we will definitely pick up. I will go through the chat again and see if there's any missing question. We definitely come back to all of that. I want to thank you, all our speakers, especially Peter also, for joining us today. Do note that this is the first step. We want to take your business now, or introduce your businesses and your companies and your solutions to the market. So do look into everything that Sabine is going to share, the links. I hope you make use of that and hope we can introduce you, and then you can travel and do business to a very interesting market. So with that, I want to conclude. Thank you, everybody. I hope you have a very nice day. Stay healthy and hope to talk to you soon. Bye-bye.